The ground trembled. Shockwaves reverberated across the globe. Kim Jong Un, the enigmatic leader of North Korea, had detonated another nuclear weapon. This was not just another test. This was a statement. A miniaturized warhead, experts suggested, capable of fitting atop a missile. Fear and uncertainty gripped the world. The audacity of the act shocked even seasoned observers. Kim Jong Un, it seemed, was determined to escalate tensions no matter the cost. The world held its breath. What would be the consequences of this brazen act of defiance? The international community reacted with swift condemnation. The United Nations Security Council convened for an emergency meeting. Sanctions, already crippling, were tightened further. But amidst the chorus of condemnation, a dissenting voice emerged. Vladimir Putin, the steely-eyed leader of Russia, offered a muted response. This was not the first time North Korea had tested its nuclear capabilities, but this time, it felt different. The world had changed. The war in Ukraine had reshaped the geopolitical landscape. And in this new world order, Kim Jong Un's actions had the potential to ignite a firestorm. Putin's silence spoke volumes. It was an open secret that Russia had been providing North Korea with resources, perhaps even technology. Was this the thanks Putin received, a nuclear headache he never bargained for? The international press had a field day. "Putin humiliated," screamed one headline. "Has Putin lost control of Kim?" questioned another. Inside Russia, whispers turned to murmurs, then to shouts. Hardliners, who had long advocated for a more aggressive foreign policy, felt betrayed. Kim Jong Un had overplayed his hand, they argued. He had embarrassed Putin on the world stage. Even Putin's closest advisors seemed bewildered. "Insanely stupid," one reportedly muttered. The carefully crafted image of Putin as a master strategist, a puppet master pulling the strings of global affairs, lay shattered. The world was witnessing, in real time, the limits of Putin's power. He had backed a rogue regime, and now it was biting the hand that fed it. The international community watched with a mixture of amusement and trepidation. Amusement at Putin's predicament. Trepidation at the implications of a weakened, humiliated leader at the helm of a nuclear-armed state. The stakes had never been higher. The bond between Russia and North Korea had always been one of convenience, not ideology. A shared distrust of the West, a desire to challenge the existing world order, these were the pillars on which their relationship stood. But the recent nuclear tests had shaken this foundation. Publicly, both sides maintained a united front. But behind the scenes, tensions simmered. Russian diplomats scrambled to contain the fallout from Kim's actions. North Korean officials, emboldened by their nuclear arsenal, grew increasingly assertive. The cracks, once hairline fractures, were beginning to show. The situation was further complicated by the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Russia, bogged down in a protracted war, could ill afford another international crisis. North Korea, sensing Russia's vulnerability, saw an opportunity to extract concessions. The balance of power, it seemed, was shifting. The international community watched with bated breath. Would this be the breaking point? Would the fragile alliance between these two unpredictable nations finally crumble? Or would they find a way to paper over their differences and present a united front to the world? Section 4, Kim's Calculated Gamble, Why Support Russia? Kim Jong Un, despite the global condemnation, remained defiant. His propaganda machine churned relentlessly, hailing the nuclear tests as a victory for the Korean people. He pledged unwavering support for Russia's just cause in Ukraine. More than just words, North Korea had already sent troops to the front lines. Approximately 11,000 North Korean soldiers were now fighting alongside Russian forces in Ukraine. They were battle-hardened, accustomed to hardship, and expendable in the eyes of their leader. Reports emerged of their deployment in the fiercely contested Kursk region. These were not isolated incidents. Kim was doubling down on his bet on Putin. Why? The answer, like most things in international relations, was a complex mix of pragmatism and opportunism. Supporting Russia gave Kim leverage. It allowed him to thumb his nose at the West, to demonstrate his independence. It also provided much-needed economic relief. Russia, desperate for allies and manpower, was willing to pay a hefty price for North Korean support. Food, fuel, and perhaps even military technology flowed across the border. For Kim, it was a win-win situation. He could support his ally, defy the West, and strengthen his grip on power, all at the same time. Section 5. The Dragon in the Room, China's Role. Looming large over this intricate geopolitical chessboard was China, the sleeping giant observing the events unfold with a mix of concern and calculation. China's relationship with North Korea was complex, a mix of historical ties and strategic considerations. On the one hand, China was North Korea's largest trading partner and a traditional ally. On the other hand, Beijing was wary of Kim Jong Un's unpredictable nature and his nuclear ambitions. The recent nuclear tests had put China in a difficult position. China condemned the tests, but its rebuke was noticeably milder than that of the West. Beijing was walking a tightrope. It did not want to alienate North Korea, but neither could it condone actions that could destabilize the region and invite further U.S. involvement. The situation was further complicated by China's own rivalry with the United States. While not explicitly supporting Russia in Ukraine, China had refrained from condemning the invasion. The last thing Beijing wanted was for North Korea's actions to push Russia closer to the West, creating a united front against China. Section 6. A World on Edge: Global Implications. The ramifications of Kim Jong Un's nuclear gamble extended far beyond the Korean peninsula. The world, already grappling with the war in Ukraine, now faced a new threat. The specter of nuclear proliferation loomed large. The international community, already divided, struggled to forge a coherent response. The United States, preoccupied with Russia's aggression in Europe, seemed hesitant to engage in another major confrontation. Europe, grappling with its own security concerns, seemed content to let Washington take the lead. The international system, built on a fragile web of treaties and alliances, seemed to be unraveling. The rules-based order championed by the West was under attack from multiple fronts. The world was entering a new era, one defined by uncertainty, volatility, and the ever-present threat of nuclear conflict. The stakes had never been higher. The decisions made in the coming weeks and months would have profound implications for global security and the future of humanity. Section 7. The Future of the Endgame. What happens next? Predicting the future is a fool's errand, especially in the volatile world of international relations. But one thing is certain: the actions of Kim Jong Un, Vladimir Putin, and the other actors on this global stage will have far-reaching consequences. Will Kim Jong Un's gamble pay off? Will he succeed in consolidating his power and cementing North Korea's status as a nuclear power? Or will his actions backfire, leading to further isolation and perhaps even regime change? Will Putin be able to contain the fallout from North Korea's actions and salvage his reputation on the world stage? Or will this mark the beginning of his decline, a sign of weakness that emboldens his adversaries? And what role will China play in this evolving drama? Will Beijing choose to assert itself as a responsible stakeholder and rein in its unruly neighbor? Or will it exploit the situation to further its own strategic interests? The answers to these questions remain elusive. But one thing is clear: the world is watching, holding its breath, and bracing for the next chapter in this dangerous game of geopolitical chess.